The Bible speaks extensively about enemies, but it's important to understand that an enemy isn't always a person. An enemy can be anything that hinders your progress or steals your peace, like sickness, poverty, fear, or doubt. The Bible reassures us that God is on our side, fighting for us. Through faith and prayer, we can overcome these enemies and live the life God intended for us. Below are 20 Bible verses that teach us how to pray against enemies with simple explanations to help you apply them in your daily life. Psalm 18:3. I call to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I have been saved from my enemies. When we face challenges, this verse reminds us that God is powerful enough to rescue us. By calling on His name, we acknowledge that our help comes from Him alone. Just like David was saved from physical enemies, God can also deliver us from things that keep us down, like fear or sickness. Imagine being stuck in a storm. Calling on God is like asking for a guiding light to lead you to safety. God is always ready to help when we trust in Him. Psalm 35:1. Contend, Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. This verse is a prayer asking God to stand up for us against any form of opposition. Whether it's dealing with personal struggles or external threats, we ask God to fight on our behalf. Picture a brave warrior stepping in to protect you when you're under attack. By praying this, we invite God to take charge and handle the battles for us. Trusting God means believing that He will defend us against all adversaries. Psalm 91 verse 7. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. This powerful promise assures us that God will protect us no matter how overwhelming our enemies might seem. Even if many try to bring us down, God's protection keeps us safe. Think of standing strong in a fortress where no enemy can breach the walls. This verse encourages us to have faith that God's safety surrounds us, making us untouchable by negative forces. We can face any adversity with confidence in God's unwavering protection. Proverbs 18 verse 10. The name of the Lord is a fortified tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. God's name symbolizes a strong refuge where we find safety from our enemies. When we feel threatened, turning to God is like seeking shelter in a secure tower. Imagine climbing to a high tower to escape a raging storm below. By trusting in God's name, we find a place of peace and security amidst chaos. This verse encourages us to seek God's protection whenever we are in danger. Isaiah 54:17. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Isaiah 54:17. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This verse assures us that any attempts to harm or undermine us will fail when we trust in God. It's like having an invisible shield that deflects every attack directed at us. Imagine facing enemies with weapons, but having a force field that renders them ineffective. By believing in this promise, we can stand strong against all forms of attack and accusations. God ensures that no negative force can ultimately prevail against us. Psalm 3:7. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God, strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. This verse is a plea for God's deliverance and protection against enemies who seek to harm us. It reflects a desire for God to actively intervene and defeat those who oppose us. Imagine calling upon a hero to defend you in a moment of crisis. By praying this, we invite God to take decisive action against those who threaten our well-being. It's a declaration of faith in God's ability to overcome any adversary. 2 Thessalonians 3:3. But the Lord is faithful, and He will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. This promise reassures us that God remains faithful in supporting and guarding us against evil forces. Even when we face dark times, God provides strength and protection. Picture having a loyal friend who stands by you in every battle, offering unwavering support. By trusting in God's faithfulness, we can find courage to face and overcome evil influences. This verse encourages us to rely on God's constant presence and protection. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. This verse encourages us to trust in God's power to fight our battles while we remain calm and steadfast. It's like knowing that someone powerful is handling the fight while you stay safe and watch. Imagine being in a war zone and having a protector who takes care of everything, allowing you to stay peaceful. By being still and trusting God, we let Him handle the difficulties and conflicts we face. This verse teaches us the importance of faith and calmness in the face of adversity. Romans 12, verse 19. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," says the Lord. This verse advises us to leave the judgment and punishment of our enemies to God, rather than seeking revenge ourselves. It emphasizes trust in God's justice and timing. Imagine being wronged by someone, and instead of retaliating, you trust that God will handle the situation fairly. By doing this, we let go of bitterness and allow God to bring about true justice. This teaches us to rely on God rather than our own desire for revenge. Deuteronomy 20, verse 4. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you victory. This promise from God assures us that He accompanies us in battles, ensuring our victory over enemies. It emphasizes that we are not alone in our struggles. Imagine going into a battle with a powerful ally by your side, giving you the confidence to fight. By believing that God fights for us, we can approach challenges with courage and hope. This verse reinforces the idea that God's presence guarantees success against adversaries. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. This verse encourages us to face our enemies with strength and courage, knowing that God is always with us. It removes fear and discouragement by assuring God's constant presence. Imagine embarking on a dangerous journey with a brave companion who never leaves your side. By embracing this promise, we can confront our fears and adversaries with confidence. This verse motivates us to rely on God's companionship in every battle. Hebrews 4:16. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. This verse invites us to approach God boldly in prayer, seeking His mercy and grace to overcome our enemies. It emphasizes the importance of confidence in our prayers. Imagine approaching a king's throne, assured that He will hear and respond to your pleas for help. By having confidence in God's willingness to help, we can seek His assistance in our struggles. This verse encourages us to trust in God's readiness to provide the support we need. Matthew 5:44, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. This teaching of Jesus encourages us to respond to enemies with love and prayer instead of hatred or retaliation. It's a call to break the cycle of negativity and seek transformation through prayer. Imagine turning your anger into compassion and praying for those who have hurt you. By loving our enemies, we allow God's grace to work in our hearts and theirs. This approach can lead to healing and resolution of conflicts. Psalm 64, verse 10, the righteous will return to their own land, and the wicked will be foreign to you. This verse speaks to the ultimate triumph of the righteous over the wicked, ensuring that enemies will be removed from our lives. It promises that justice will prevail and the wicked will no longer be a threat. Imagine planting seeds in your garden and seeing the weeds of adversity being removed by God's hand. By maintaining righteousness, we trust that God will take care of our adversaries. This gives us hope that our enemy's power is temporary and will be overcome by God's plan. Jeremiah 17:14. Heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved, for you are the one I praise. This is a heartfelt prayer for healing and salvation from our enemies. It acknowledges that true healing comes from God and praises Him for His power to save us. Imagine being injured and calling upon a healer who can mend your wounds completely. By asking God for healing and salvation, we open ourselves to His restorative power against anything that hinders us. This verse encourages reliance on God for both physical and spiritual deliverance. Ephesians 6:12, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. This verse reminds us that our enemies are not just people, but also spiritual forces that oppose us. It calls us to recognize the true nature of our battles and to prepare spiritually to face them. Imagine being a soldier equipped not with physical weapons, but with faith and prayer to combat unseen forces. By understanding the spiritual dimension of our struggles, we can better equip ourselves through prayer and faith. This perspective empowers us to face adversities with divine strength. 1 Peter 5:8-9. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith. These verses caution us to stay vigilant against spiritual enemies and to remain steadfast in our faith. It portrays the enemy as a dangerous predator, emphasizing the need for constant alertness and resistance. Imagine being in a garden where a lion is lurking, but you are equipped with the strength and faith to stand your ground. By resisting the devil through prayer and faith, we protect ourselves from being overwhelmed by negative forces. This teaches us to be proactive in our spiritual defenses. 2 Samuel 22:40. You have given me also the shield of your salvation, and your right hand supported me, and your gentleness made me great. This verse is a declaration of God's protective power and support in times of need. It describes God as a shield that safeguards us from our enemies. Imagine having a strong shield that can block any attack, allowing you to stand confidently against adversaries. By trusting in God's salvation and support, we feel empowered to face any challenge. This verse highlights the security and strength we receive from God's protection. Psalm 27:2. When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall. This verse expresses confidence that God will cause the enemies to fail and fall. It reassures us that despite their attempts to harm us, they will not succeed. Imagine standing on a mountain while your enemies below try to climb, but they all slip and fall before reaching you. By placing our trust in God, we can be sure that our adversaries' plans will be thwarted. This verse encourages steadfast faith in God's ability to protect us from harm. Romans 8:31, if God is for us, who can be against us? This powerful statement affirms that with God on our side, no enemy can ultimately defeat us. It's a declaration of God's unwavering support and protection. Imagine having an unbeatable ally who ensures that no adversary can harm you. By embracing this truth, we can face any enemy with the assurance of God's favor. This verse empowers us with the confidence that nothing can stand against us when God is in our corner. By meditating on these verses and incorporating them into your prayers, you can find strength and assurance that God is fighting your battles. Whether your enemies are external challenges or internal struggles, the Bible provides guidance and comfort, reminding us that with faith and prayer, we can overcome any obstacle. Let these scriptures inspire you to seek God's help and trust in His promise to protect and deliver you from all forms of adversity.